Shark Sports Radio begins right now. A Celtics fan and a Lakers fan on the same frequency? Oh, this should be good.
I think ultimately the Celtics find a way to hang banner 18 in 6.
In a world where sports media, lifestyles, humor, and commentary collide.
First time since signing LeBron, the Lakers have said, we don't give a shit about LeBron. We have to worry about the future.
Let's take a dive into this tank.
Live on the podcast. It's a civil rivalry, but we got the AL East. We got the Red Sox. We got the Yankees, Blue Jays, Rays, Orioles. Who do you have winning the AL East ticket?
Well, Shark, first off, I know you talked about it being a civil rivalry, and I think we are. It reminds me of the what is it called? There's a college football rivalry called like Civil Discourse. I want to say, I forget. I think it's a Big Ten rivalry. I'm going to have to look this up in between. But anyways, Civil Discourse. This is a no-brainer, Shark. The New York Yankees are going to win the AL East. They did not last year. Obviously, that was the Toronto Blue Jays. But the AL East did get 3 teams in. I think the AL East is going to be interesting in the sense that I think the Yankees and Red Sox, the Yankees are going to win the division. No question there. No question. The Red Sox have, I think, really good starting pitching, which is crazy because a year ago we were talking about how good the offense potentially could be. And the pitching obviously is lackluster, and the bullpen we don't know. And now I feel like Sox fans look at the bullpen, and if Chapman repeats a success, Whitlock, outside of that, like Weissert, I guess, a little bit, but I don't know. I'll let you speak on it. Yeah. But I think the starting pitching could be really good. And obviously it's anchored by Garrett Crochet. He was lights out today for them against the Reds. We talked about it being opening day. But yeah, I just think the Yankees have too much depth with pitching. And they return Grisham and Bellinger. I don't love returning Grisham because it blocks, Jason Dominguez, and I don't want to get into all that. Well, Spencer. The Yankees might have the best AAA team in baseball.
Yeah,
Dominguez, Spencer Jones, and right now Luis Gil's there, or Oswaldo Cabrera. There's just so many pieces, so that just speaks to the depth that they have. And Shark, pitching wise, right now, Cole isn't back yet. Rodon will be back soon. But you talk about getting those 2 additions, a healthy Clark Schmidt, a full season of Luis Gil, a full season of Cam Schlitter, which I'm excited to see. Yep. And in camp, he added 3 miles an hour to his cutter. So, just that kid, I think, is going to be absolutely special. He obviously was special in the playoffs for the Yankees last year. There's just a ton of depth. Ryan Weathers, who I didn't even get to discuss yet. Not that he's going to be huge, but there's just a ton of depth with the rotation. Yeah. So Will Warren, it goes on and on. The Yankees are deep when it comes to pitching. I think Bednar is going to be lights out in the closer role. I think Duvall will be better. I'm curious to see how things kind of play out with the shortstop, third base scenario, because that's a kind of a disaster. But I think Ryan McMahon brings stability. I don't know what's going to happen with Volpe. I know they're rolling with Calabero right now, which I don't love. But, he's stick him on the bottom of your lineup. He can swipe bases if he gets on, and you're not expecting a lot from him. End of the day, Yankees
at this point.
Yeah, Yankees. I think the Red Sox will finish second. Mm-hmm. Orioles, I think, are going to be the team kind of like Toronto last year to surprise people. I think Baltimore are really going to shock people. That lineup, if they all click at the same time, it could be absolutely disgusting. And I think Trevor Rogers gives them stability in the rotation as a guy that can kind of anchor it. He was huge for them in the second half. It flew under the radar because the team was bad. But he was lights out in the second half. As a starting pitcher for them when they got him from Miami for nothing. Connor Norby, I think, is what they traded for him. Yeah. So I like that. I think the Blue Jays are going to take a step back.
Yes.
I just don't love the pitching. I don't trust it. And they're going to be really reliant on Vlad Guerrero and George Springer, some of their ancillary pieces. Losing Bichette's huge, obviously. Trey Yasevich, I think, is going to be great, but you're still relying. He's first of all, he's down right now, shut down with an injury. And then when he comes back, are you going to have to kind of, obviously you want to protect the young arm. So I don't think he's going to give them as much as people thought that he might. I just don't really trust. I don't really know what else. I know obviously Gausman, I know Barry. I know that they have proven veterans. but the bullpen, which is what failed them in the World Series, with Hoffman and that, like I just think they're going to take a major step back. And then the Rays, I have obviously finishing last, but
all right, that's it from here, guys. That was a nice little breakdown. We ran through the Yankees roster. We talked about every team in that division. I have a bunch of notes, but props to you for right off the dome. So here's my thinking. Toronto, you're right. I think they're going to take a step back without Bichette. I think Dylan Cease is an overpay. I don't know if he can go back to what he was with the White Sox. Kind of, took a major step back with injuries with the Padres. When I look at Baltimore, yes, Pete Alonso, nice piece. You get a big bat in that lineup. Adley Rutschman had a down year last year. Gunnar Henderson's, hurt, banged up a little bit right now. Jackson Holliday's banged up right now. Gunnar Henderson, let's see if he has a better year this year. They did get rid of one of their young starters, right? So was it Sanchez? So I just kind of wonder, Baltimore, they could be on the cusp of doing something good, but at the same time, it's not going to happen. It's a two-man race. It's the Yankees and the Red Sox. You pick the Yankees, I'm picking the Red Sox. And the biggest reason, and I'm a realist, if anybody has heard our predictions last year, guess what? I chose the Yankees to win the division last year. So I'm a realist when it comes to acknowledging, real baseball on the diamond. Here's the situation that both teams are facing. With the Red Sox, they're facing a major identity, shift, right? They know that they have young guys in the system that they want to trust and nurture and, have them come along in a great way with their development. But they did take a little bit of a slight angle, and that angle is, we're going pitching. We're going out and getting Ranger Suarez, right? We're going out and we're trading for Sonny Gray. We're going to take on that contract. Well, when you look at it, the way that the Red Sox have always worked, it's not always about the offense being the catalyst. It's not always about the pitching being the catalyst on a consistent basis. Maybe when David Ortiz was around, they focused a little more on offense to protect him. But right now, currently constituted where the Red Sox stand, is their offense is going to be a little bit above average, a little bit. And I'm not saying average or below average. I think they're going to be a top 15 type of team when it comes to offense, where they're going to be dominant. And let me tell you, they're going to be dominant is pitching. And that's why I believe if you look at what the Rangers did in 2023, right, and they, stacked up their pitching, and everybody looked on that field and they were like, yeah, you got Corey Seager, but like, what other pieces do you have? Marcus Semien, like they didn't have too many other guys, right? So with the Red Sox, they're in the same boat. I mean, they got to get their offense somehow rolling. Defensive line, Ranger Suarez is a ground ball pitcher, so you got to make sure that your defense is there. Garrett Crochet, who can be a Cy Young candidate this year, needs defense behind him as well, and that's something that they did struggle with. But they got Marcelo Mayer playing second base. Trevor Story has a glove at shortstop. Yes, he needs to get a little bit better. Caleb Durbin coming out of nowhere from Milwaukee. Hopefully he can be like that unsung hero in the infield because they're going to need it. But their outfield is stacked. Let's call it what it is. I mean, Roman Anthony, Wilyer Abreu, and then you have Rafael, who's a dominant, center fielder, Gold Glove. I just look at that and Wilyer Abreu, Gold Glove, and he also hit home runs after home runs in the World Baseball Classic. I just look at what the Red Sox did this offseason, and yes, you could say, hey, they went the cheap route. They didn't sign Bregman. Maybe Bregman was kind of like a, short-term plan in their eyes, which would be the case with the 1-year deal. But they do have an identity shift. They got to figure out what their makeup is. And that's something that's going to have to come along this year. But I think Roman Anthony is the face of that franchise right now, moving forward. Contreras is a nice piece for sure. Having him at first is probably more formidable than Tristan Casas coming off an injury, or going out and signing big contracts to Pete Alonso or Kyle Schwarber. Maybe Wilson Contreras is just a nice piece to have in that lineup, right? But they're not going to hit home runs. They're not going to hit a lot of home runs, but they'll be in the middle of the pack offensively. With the Yankees are the same exact team as the Red Sox, I feel like. They have their star with Aaron Judge, right? They have Giancarlo Stanton came out of the woodworks last night with a great opening night. We went 2 for 4. He had a terrific opening night. You talked about Cam Schuttler and the front end rotation that they have in their bullpen. Great bullpen. It's a 2-headed race in the AL East. I think it's slightly going to be Red Sox, but it's not going to be by a lot of games. It really isn't. These two teams are well matched in the AL East. They're going to be the 2 top dogs. Toronto might, or Baltimore might have a say in it, but I feel like they haven't done enough in the offseason to make a case for themselves. So it's going to be 98 wins for the Red Sox. And it's going to be 97 wins for the Yankees. I'm calling it right now. It's going to be a very, very close race. So I do have the Red Sox, their bullpen, and their stars, as I mentioned. So let's move on to the AL Central. The AL Central is a little bit deep this year. You got the Tigers, Royals, Indians, White Sox. Sorry, not the Indians, the Guardians. What do you make of when you look at the AL Central?
I mean, I look at it as it's the Tigers' division to lose. Clearly, I think I was a little bit on the fence, and then they get Framber Valdez, add him to the mix, and I think that really solidifies it. Obviously, we know about Skubal. Mize, as we talked about last year on the pod, if he was healthy, he gives them a lot, and obviously we saw that come to fruition last year. Yep. So, their offense obviously has some issues, but I think the starting pitching's too good. They got Will Vest in the back end of the bullpen. They really got some pieces there. I also just think the division's bad. Like the White Sox stink. The Indians, I think, might be like somehow, you talk about what they pulled out at the end of the year last year to win the division is crazy. I don't think they're going to get that hot again. Their offense, even if Jose Ramirez is MVP caliber,
right,
I just don't see their offense being enough. The Royals would be the team that I think can threaten the Tigers. Yeah. If Jack Caglianone takes that step forward as a young superstar, they get a bounce back season from Cole Ragans atop the rotation. I think they have the pitching, and I think they'll definitely have the offense. And Bobby Witt also, we can't forget about him, right? We talk about the Royals, can't not talk about Bobby Witt. Yeah. Maybe Vinny Pasquantino, with the WBC, he obviously showed the type of leader he can be. They got a young catching prospect and Carter Jensen. So there's a lot of good young talent on that team. There's Miguel Garcia. I don't want to discount him. He showed out during the WBC as well. So there's a lot of really intriguing young pieces on that team. And I think the Royals have a chance to really threaten the Tigers, but I think they'll finish second. And then, after that, does it really matter in that division? Because the other teams are going to be so bad. But yeah, it's the Tigers to lose. But the Royals, I think, will be a little bit pesky to them.
Yeah, I like the Tigers too. But I agree with you when it comes to the Royals. And I'll get into the Royals later. Not a foreshadowing. But I look at the rotation with what they did and went out and got Framber Valdez. I mean, that was huge for the rotation. And, you talk about Jack Flaherty in the mix, Justin Verlander, they added. But offensively, they're going to be a strong-headed monster. You got Riley Green, who can hit 40-plus home runs, Spencer, Torkelson, Colt Keith, Kerry Carpenter. I mean, you're talking about guys that can hit all over the diamond, and you got that pitching. That's going to be really, really tough to beat in the AL Central. And the Guardians, I love Jose Ramirez. I really do. I wish the Guardians were a little bit better than, what they did in the offseason. But they're just not like an enticing or intriguing destination, right? So it doesn't surprise to me that you got to sign your own guys and try to make up what you can with it. But when it comes down to it, it's going to be the Tigers and the Royals. And I got the Tigers absolutely winning the AL Central. I'll start off with the AL West. When I look at Seattle, Seattle is a team that is ready now. I feel like Logan Gilbert, opening day starter, who came out, is just unbelievably filthy. George Kirby, Brian Wu, Luis Castillo. We talk about all these pitchers and trade rumors all the time, right? Well, now's the reality. They're in the pitching rotation. Talk about the high-powered lineup, right? They hit 230 home runs in 2025. Cal Raleigh projected to hit over 38 home runs this year. Julio Rodriguez hopefully has a bounce-back year after having a dull of a season last year. 30-plus home runs. Newly acquired Brandon Donovan is expected to be a nice little piece added to the mix. I do see Seattle, making a run at it. They are a tough team in the West. You can make a case to the Rangers, right? But at the same time, if I'm looking at that rotation, if I'm looking at the big bats in that lineup with Cal Raleigh and hopefully J-Rod gets on his game, I can see the Mariners taking the AL West pretty quickly in this division.
Yeah, I would agree. It's the Mariners to lose. You talked obviously about the pitching, and they lose Jorge Polanco, as you talked about. They added Brendan Donovan, a guy who's consistently hit 280, top of the lineup. Plug him in, he gets on base, which they need. They'll have Josh Naylor, obviously. They added some bullpen arms. And then on the back end of the bullpen, Andres Munoz is absolutely outstanding. Curious to see Cal Raleigh and how he responds. It's obviously what he did last season. But I think you have a guy in J-Rod who's capable of being the MVP of the American League. He's already had 2 30-30 seasons, and he's 25 years old. And I don't think 40-40 is out of the question for him. He's a spectacular young superstar, and I really think that he's going to anchor this team potentially to get to the World Series. I don't, not to foreshadow, but I really do think they're going to be a great team in the West, which has, I think, some interesting other teams. We don't want to overlook. I think for the first time in a long time, people are excited about the Oakland A's, and they just have a lot of good young talent in that lineup with Kurtz and Wilson and Brent Rooker emerging late. So there's a lot of interesting pieces they have. The Rangers obviously have spent a lot of money the last few off seasons. More of that veteran composed roster, but to me, it's the Mariners. The starting pitching is just so good and so deep. And even last year they had injuries and they were still able to overcome it. Logan Gilbert, I think, is obviously the anchor to what they do in that rotation. So you have the back end of the bullpen, a lights out closer, great starting pitching, and a young superstar. You got the right mix of talent to obviously win the West.
Yeah. And that's going to wrap it up for the AL. With the NL East, right? There's heavy competition in this division. So let's talk about who could be the winner in the NL East.
I go back and forth on a few teams here. So, obviously, the Marlins and the Nationals. No, I'm just kidding. The Phillies and Mets, seem like they're going to be competing for it. I know the Phillies obviously had a few departures in the offseason, but they were, the big pieces. They have Christopher Sanchez, who, excuse me, could potentially be the Cy Young winner in the National League. He's that skilled. They have Jesus Luzardo, who obviously they're expecting to kind of, take a step forward and kind of be to them what like Ranger Suarez was, and losing him, just a guy who's going to be solid and eat up innings. He's obviously a guy that's come on later in his career. If it's not now, when for the Phillies, right? You talked about Alec Boehm, obviously just one of their younger stars, but the rest of them are Harper, Realmuto, Schwarber. There's just so many pieces that feel like if they're not able to put it together now, they're not ever going to. Aaron Nola. So they're the team to me that, like, I don't know if they win the division, but that's the team that I think I'm most intrigued by. I think the Braves potentially also could sneak up and steal this division. When you look at the Mets and the Phillies, they just have older pieces that I think might need to take some time off or will have missed some time during portions of the season where, the Braves, obviously, if Acuna, and these are big ifs, if Acuna can stay healthy, if Riley can stay healthy, Albies, like, there's a lot of potential there for that lineup to obviously score runs. And then with their starting pitching, they just haven't been healthy altogether at once. But you have potential anchors in that rotation, especially with Spencer Strider being, lights out front end starter. So, answer your question, Shark. I lean Phillies to win it, but I don't know. Like, any of those, I know I'm not making a real prediction here, but I guess I'll say Phillies. But I wouldn't be surprised if it was the Mets or the Braves.
Okay. I got the Braves. You're right. I think the Braves are going to be a force in the NL East. Ronald Acuna Jr., as you mentioned, Riley in the mix, Albies, Michael Harris. You have some top guys, and let's talk what it is too. I mean, last year was kind of a down year. I mean, 76 and 86 record. It's just not something that you have to look forward to. Acuna had some serious injuries last year, along with Riley. And then, you talk about Chris Sale and Strider. When I think of Chris Sale, as dominant of a pitcher he is, he just can't stay healthy, right? So the X factor in the Braves winning the NL East, it's health. It's guys being ready. Caminiti is the team's top prospect in 2026, a real good right-handed pitcher. I think he'll get called up soon, if not by the end of the year. So that's something that you have to look at as well. But I believe that the Mets, I like what I see with the Mets and their makeup. But the issue for me is, Lindor and Soto, they can stay red hot, but they still needed that one extra bat. And if Pete Alonso re-signed, I would say without a doubt the Mets in this division. But it's going to be, you're right, I think it's going to be the Braves at 1. I think it's the Phillies at 2, and I think it's the Mets at 3. And if the Mets are at 3, let's just say, Steve Cohen will not be happy watching that team on the diamond. But again, it's going to be all about health. It's going to be all about who can stay healthy. I'm going to surprise a lot of people with my NL Central pick. And a lot of them might be scratching their head, but I do see a lot of potential in this team. I think the Cincinnati Reds are a team that is getting overlooked in that division. When you look at Hunter Henry, Chase Burns, Andrew Abbott, yes, he lost today, but you look at the potential depth in the rotation. Ellie De La Cruz, filthy bad. They added Nguyen, Suarez. When I just look at Sal Stewart, a young player, nice piece. I just like when you look at the division with the Milwaukee Brewers and the Chicago Cubs. I think the Cubs losing Tucker is massive. I don't ever just want to put all my cards in on the Brewers, even though they proved it, especially last year, winning 97, having 97 wins. They were a very dominant force within that division, but I want to take a shot at the Reds. I feel like the return of Suarez is going to play a major factor. The young talent that they have, the great pitching that they have. And let's call it what it is. Terry Francona is a winner, right? He's a great manager of the game. And so that's why I do have Cincinnati Reds taking home the NL Central.
Yeah. I see the path that you're talking about with them, especially, they do have a lot of really good young talent, Abbott and Hunter Green, if healthy for a full season, should be very intriguing atop the rotation. I just can't not go Cubs. I just think the Reds struggle too much at times with runs, like scoring runs, scratching runs across.
It happened today.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean obviously they face Crochet, but yeah, today's a good example of it.
It doesn't help my argument. Yeah.
It doesn't, but like it's Crochet, so I mean I'll give them a pass on that. But obviously Abbott pitched really well. But yeah, I'm looking at the Cubs, and once again, they're a roster that's kind of built to get something. Now they have some younger pieces. I'm not saying the Phillies or the Mets exactly, but they return Shoto Amanga. They have Cade Horton, Matthew Boyd, Jamison Teon, who obviously was a really surprising asset for them last year. As was Boyd. Boyd kind of came out of nowhere. Horton, 24-year-old rookie. He got some votes in the National League Rookie of the Year race. I think he finished second or third in that. And then they traded for Eduardo Cabrera. So they have some pretty good starting pitching depth. Michael Busch, I think, is going to take some steps forward. Obviously, he was someone who, contributed. I think he had the most home runs since Rizzo did for the Cubs in like the mid-20 teens. So Pete Crow Armstrong, obviously.
I forgot they traded for Cabrera.
Yeah.
Wow, that is a stacked rotation. You're right.
Yeah. And I mean, Cabrera hasn't lived up to his like full potential with the Marlins, but change of scenery in Chicago and who knows.
Yeah.
From the confines.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like the Cubs. Brewers I'd like too, but I just look at them and like in today's day and age in baseball, it's hard if you don't hit home runs, and they don't really have home run hitters. Yeah. And now they lose Churio for some time. So
unfortunate. I love Churio.
A lot of good talent there, but they're like they play baseball. Like they have so many guys that are just like they get on base, they hit singles, they're
gamers.
Get a gap power, they steal bases, but the game has shifted heavily against that. And maybe that's why they're still successful in the regular season, but in the playoffs, they never get over the hump. They just don't get, and they struggle to score. That's what it comes down to too. Like the Reds, they struggle to consistently score runs because they don't have that long ball threat. So,
the Reds will not struggle to score runs. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen.
Yeah. So I got the Cubs.
I got the Cubs. Got the Reds. You got the Cubs. Let's move on to the MVP, because we all know who's going to win the NL West. Do we really got to get into this? LA Dodgers, throw in the cap. You take the crown. You'll have the highest franchise record in wins at they were 111 one year, 111 and 51. This year they're going to be 120. Let's call it 120. I mean, +9. If you think about it, they added Kyle Tucker, right? They added the closer from, was it
Edwin Diaz?
Suarez.
Edwin Diaz.
Diaz, correct.
The trumpet guy.
Yeah. So they added Diaz. They added Tucker. They get richer and richer and defer the money. That's what they're made of. They're thinking of the long game for the money, which is smart in them, but it will affect the 2026, 2027 payroll immensely going into potential lockout. But again, I have Dodgers winning 120 games.
Yeah, I mean, it's a crazy amount, but I can understand why you're saying it. It's just hard to see them losing.
Do you agree? Do you think it's not about who's going to win that division? It's going to be about how many games the Dodgers have.
Yeah. I'd give you that. Yeah, it's crazy, but yeah, I mean, it's crazy to even say that a team can win 120 and not really like bat an eye about it, but that's how it is with them.
It's unreal. Imagine going 120 and 42 for the regular season.
It would be wild.
That's insane. They could go undefeated at home.
Yeah.
I mean, you still got the in division games and different lineups, different pitchers. I get it. So maybe not undefeated, but they will be dominant. They will be dominant at per usual. So let me guess our World Series picks. I'll let you go first because I kind of have an idea of where you're going, but yep.
All right. Well, I got Yankees coming out of the American League by beating the Seattle Mariners in the ALCS. And in the National League, I know it's crazy because we were just talking about the Dodgers, but in good conscience, I can't pick them to win. So I'm going to go with the Phillies because like I said earlier, I really think it's kind of now or never for them. So I'm going to go with the Phillies. And I'll similar to 2009, I have the New York Yankees taking it in 6 games.
So you're trying to manifest the Dodgers having a trouble in the playoffs.
Yes.
And I dig it. I dig it. But if we're talking reality, if we're talking real life, we're going Dodgers. We're going Mariners. The Dodgers are going to win again. That's just the way it is. That's the way the cookie crumbles. And I think that's a big reason why the MLB might have a lockout is due to the fact that this is happening. And if parity is not gained, from the lockout, well, then the MLB is going to be in trouble moving forward because we're going to see the Dodgers win every fucking year. And it's a carousel. It's a carousel every year. Except last year, the Toronto Blue Jays gave them a run for their money, and what a World Series that was. That was a fantastic World Series. So who knows? Maybe in the playoffs, it's a different ball game. All right, let's get into the AL MVP conversation. I'm going to start off first. I'll throw it over to you. No pun intended. I got the Royals. You mentioned it early on, Ticket. And I said it's a foreshadowing moment is because it is. Bobby Witt Jr., I have faith in this guy. He had 32 home runs, batted .332 in 2024. He did have a little bit of a down year last year, hoping he can make that turn up again. I have him hitting 300. I have him hitting 36 home runs, 108 RBI. The Royals will be a wild card team. They will. Pascantino, Sal Perez, Jack Caglione, as you mentioned. He has great protection. I think with that protection comes success. And that's where I think Bobby Witt Jr. will go off and have a really close race in that AL Central with the Tigers. And it's a big piece, a big reason why is Bobby Witt Jr. is going to be the AL MVP.
Yeah, I don't dislike that pick. Obviously, I can go Aaron Judge here, but I'm going to go contrarian just to play. If I had to pick somebody else, like if I had to pick someone other than the Dodgers, I'm going to say, I said it earlier, but I think J-Rod is capable of having a 40-40 season. Really special player with the Mariners, and I think the Mariners are going to be the best team in the West, and then he's going to anchor it, and I think you'll see Cal Raleigh, and it's not crazy to say because it was a special season that he had last year. Yeah. But I think you'll see a drop-off in his production, but it'll be picked up.
You think? Holy smokes.
Yeah, I think you'll see a drop-off in the big dumpers production. He might be, too much of a dump back there. Might stink it up. But no, J-Rod is special. I think this is going to be like, it's crazy to say breakthrough season when he's already had a pair of 30-30 seasons, but I think he's going to be the AL MVP. And Mariners, like you said, if I had to go against the teams that I'm, obviously root for, I do think of it's the Mariners have a really good chance.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. I'm not choosing the Red Sox.
Because you know the Red Sox. Yeah, I'm being real too. The Yankees are the best team in the American League.
The Yankees will not make it to the ALCS.
I'd be surprised if they don't.
I don't think they do. We'll put a friendly bet on it.
We'll have a friendly
bet. I love that J-Rod pick. My friend, I love J-Rod. If he can get his bearings correct, Cal Raleigh back in the mix, shutting opponents down. I mean, they do have the issue is if there's any caveat to J-Rod, it's a long ballpark. I mean, you gotta smash the ball to get out of that park.
Yep.
So that is something that Cal Raleigh, especially if people look at Cal Raleigh's home runs last year, like you gotta look at it and be like, he hit how many in what park do they play? AT&T Park? I think they play T-Mobile.
T-Mobile Park.
Yeah,
T-Mobile.
But that's some serious yardage. I mean, that's some serious feat. So it's a dream come true, hopefully, for J-Rod to win MVP. But I got Bobby Witt. NL MVP, I got Braves shortstop Ronald Acuna Jr. I do have the Braves winning that division as well. Here's the thing. I think it's about time that Ronald Acuna takes the next step and becomes that elite player in the NL. He's more than capable of doing it. He has been down with injuries these past few years, playing only 95 games in 2025. So it's about time for his batting average to tick up to 320, hit 36 home runs, and have 125 RBI. He is more than capable of doing it. He just needs to stay healthy. And that has always been the issue with him. So if he does, my friend, just like J-Rod with your pick, very similar player in their attributes, hitting the long ball, stealing bases, find a way to make things happen for their organization. Acuna Jr. is the NL MVP for me.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually going to pick Acuna as well. So if I had to, but once again, throwing another name out there, if I had to pick somebody else, let's go Fernando Tatis Jr.
Yeah.
He's had a string of seasons, now 3 seasons in a row where, he's obviously all-star caliber, very good play seasons that the average ball player would only dream of having. But he hasn't had that next level shatter the glass type season that I think people expected him to have.
Yeah.
And for a lot of, he's entering, I believe he's age 27. There's a lot of history of guys when they get to that age kind of having that breakthrough season. It's that light bulb moment, and they have an MVP campaign, Aaron Judge being one of them. So I think Fernando Tatis, this is the time, if there is going to be a time, for him to kind of break through that wall, shatter that ceiling, and really assume the role of face of baseball type player that people put on him at an early age. It's going to be this year. The Padres are an interesting team. I know we glossed over the West, for rightfully so, because it's the Dodgers and it's the Dodgers and it's the Dodgers. But the Padres have a very interesting roster. A lot of talent on that team, a lot of talent around him. Once again, it's a pitcher-friendly park, but he's obviously been able to produce some good numbers despite that. So I'm going Tatis for MVP.
Beautiful ballpark. I've been there. San Diego's amazing. The food's great. The crowd's awesome. And it's really cool because they have a big long hill in center field. I think it's right center. And instead of buying tickets, inside the stadium, you can actually just park your butt right on the hill. And there's all vendors out there. There's you can grab tacos, you can grab. They had a Dunkin' Donuts, try this new donut. And I'm like, you guys have Dunkin' Donuts out here? It's an East Coast thing. And, they were like, no, we don't. It's actually a rarity. So I was trying the newest donut and people were like, oh my God, isn't this so good? I'm like, yeah, it's so good. It's yeah, I'm from Boston. So, but it's a great ballpark. Fernando Tatis is probably one of my favorite players. I always beg the Red Sox to trade for him. Because San Diego wants to get rid of money, but the point is the kid's an athlete, the guy's awesome, and so I always wanted Tatis to do well, and I love that pick. Let's move on to the Cy Young winner for the AL. So I have, and here's the thing: last year, I think I didn't pick him last year to win it as well, but I think this year, because of the protection that he has within this rotation, the bullpen, how astronomical it was last year. They still have Garrett Whitlock and Justin Slayton and Aroldis Chapman. And in the rotation, you talk about Sonny Gray and you talk about Ranger Suarez, Oviedo, and then Connolly Early, who's taken a step up into the majors, who had a great performance against the Yankees in the playoffs. I got Garrett Crochet. I think it's plenty of protection to dominate, better defense behind him. Yes, they lose Bregman, but I think, Durbin could do a fairly well job at third base. That's my only worry. Marcelo Mayer, maybe with the caveat, but his fastball is one thing, my friend. But if he can develop the off-speed pitching, whether that's his cut fastball, whether that's his curveball, his circle change, if he finds a way to make that happen, watch the fuck out. Garrett Crochet is going to win AL Cy Young.
I wish I could disagree, but I do think it's Crochet. He led the league in strikeouts last year. If he just repeats what he did last season statistically, or is close to it, I don't see how he doesn't win it. Obviously, it was very close, a legitimate case, a year ago. So, yeah, I mean, he's gonna, assuming health, I don't see how he's not gonna put up these really gaudy numbers. And anchor the Red Sox, be really kind of the, him and Roman Anthony moving forward, obviously going to be the face of the franchise. But yeah, Crochet he's everything you want in a frontline starter. He's everything you want. He's an ace in the true sense of the term. I don't see how it's not him, as much as I hate to say it as a Yankee fan. So Crochet is nasty. He's not. He's disgusting. He's like I said, he's everything you hand the ball to a guy on the fifth day and you say it's my ace, and he gives you, what he did today, for example. So I know the strikeouts weren't as there as normal, but yeah, this guy is a lights out front end starter.
He's still at 8 strikeouts ticket. Give him a break.
Well, the Reds, I expect 10 at least.
All right. Hey, you're right. If that's AL Cy Young, it's got to be closer to 10, right? So with the NL Cy Young, we talked about the Dodgers' dominance. I'm going to keep talking about the Dodgers' dominance. It's Yoshinobu Yamamoto for me. Their lineup is extremely impactful. He's not going to have to torch guys, at the plate because he has protection offensively. But this guy will, soon become the head man with the Dodgers, right? I know they had Blake Snell and they have Tyler Glass now, and they got some young stars, in the mix as well. Yamamoto, for me, has to take this next step in order for the Dodgers to be, like I said, an elite team with 120 wins, especially when it comes to the pitching side, because the NL is full of offensive talent. It really is. So Yamamoto's got to come with this stuff. I know he's got it. He's a very young player, but when he is on, my goodness, is he fun to watch, and he is as dominant as can be, along with his partner Shohei Ohtani. And Shohei Ohtani, everybody probably has him written into the MVP or Cy Young. Like we mentioned, I'm thinking outside the box. I'm going with Yamamoto.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a guy I talked a little bit about earlier, but Christopher Sanchez with the Phillies. He's gotten better and better each of the last 3 seasons, and if he matches or is close to matching what he did last year, they'll at least be in the mix or in conversation for the NL Cy Young. Well over 200 strikeouts and 200 innings pitched. His WAR was, I believe, in 8 last season. 13-5. ERA at 2.5, anything close to those numbers, and he's going to be in the conversation for sure for Cy Young. And by the way, his campaign got off to a nice start today. Picked up the win, struck out 10, didn't give up a run against the Rangers, a good Rangers lineup. So,
and he got paid.
Yeah,
he got.
It's nice to pay the guy, and then opening day starter, and you see that kind of production, right? You feel a little bit better about handing him that money. Obviously, it's a long season, but Sanchez has really developed, and if he continues to get better, as I said, as he's gotten better year after year, his first few seasons, it's hard to imagine him taking more of a step forward than he did a year ago. But like I said, anything close to it, I think he's right in that conversation for Cy Young.
Yeah, no, I really like that pick, and Sanchez is a fun pitcher to watch. But like I said, Garrett Crochet got paid last year, right when he got traded. It's nice to see, Christian get paid as well with the Phillies. So Sanchez and what he's capable of doing in Philadelphia is big time. Let's do AL Rookie of the Year. I have Houston starter Tatsuya Imai. Okay. When I look at opportunity, this is the opportunity for him to come into the fold as the next starter with Hunter Brown, right? Because without Framber Valdez, that void has to be filled. And so I think it's not a matter of can he do it? I think it's more of a matter of opportunity. When opportunity comes at you in different ways, like it's been handed to him now, as to become that second guy in that rotation, they might have a little bit of struggle offensively. They kind of are getting rid of guys, right? Like, it's one of those things where you got Alvarez and, Altuve is getting up there in age. It's like one of those things where some of the old guys are moving out, right? We saw it with Bregman last year, Tucker, moving on to the Chicago Cubs. Even though he's not old, he's just moving on. Framber Valdez, same kind of thing. Imai's going to have to go in there and make his stamp on the game with the Houston Astros. I think he has the stuff. World Baseball Classic, you saw him, tremendously putting guys out, major league talent. So I got Imai with the Houston Astros.
I'm going to go with Kevin McGonigal for the Detroit Tigers for me. Really a guy who's risen through their system. He's skipping AAA. He only played like 40 games in AA a year ago. 21 years old. And by the way, today he had 4 hits against the Padres in his MLB debut. So, off to a really nice start there. But, yeah, McGonigal is just, the Tigers desperately are in need of a bat like this in their lineup. Obviously really young, but McGonigal has shown in the minors in a short amount of time a lot of maturity at the plate. For young guys, you tend to not see a lot of walks, you see a lot of strikeouts and whiffs and things like that. And he showed it today in his debut, a lot of poise, on the road. Nick Pivetta had a great year last year. And in his first at bat, comes up with the big hit, drives in runs. So McGonigal has a chance in this lineup to really be a high production guy, and I think it will show through. And I like McGonigal to win the ALROY.
Yeah, he can do some damage, and hopefully he does, allow himself to get comfortable within that lineup because he can do it. He has the total potential. And talk about a unanimous total potential guy. I saw him in spring training against the Red Sox, and I'm like, when like an award is just literally going to be handed to somebody, whether you're watching the Oscars or the Grammys or Emmys. It's signed, sealed, delivered. Rookie of the Year for the NL is Pirates shortstop Connor Griffin. What I see out of this kid is unimaginable talent. He has the power. He has the finesse. He's got the defense. Shortstop for the Pirates. Pirates have been begging for a guy other than Paul Skeens. Paul Skeens got lit the fuck up today. I'm going with Connor Griffin. I feel like Connor Griffin has like all the intangibles to be that next guy. And I think Pittsburgh has a very, very bright future with Connor Griffin.
Yeah, I mean, I do like Connor Griffin a lot. If I was to go somebody else, I would think of Nolan McLean with the Mets. He's going to have a chance to be one of the potentially be a guy who receives Rookie of the Year votes over 2 years just because of the eligibility. I think he does still have his rookie status intact. Made 8 starts last season. Really helped the Mets late with this call up, and then during the WBC showed a lot of maturity. For him to take the ball in the gold, the championship game against Venezuela.
He pitched well.
He did pitch well, and I only gave up 2 runs against a lineup that had a lot of MLB guys, a lot of really talented MLB guys in it. McLean I think has a chance to be really special for a Mets rotation that is going to probably be asking a lot of him. They have a lot of young pitchers, Jonah Tong. They traded the other one, Brandon Sprout, who I can't recall. They also have Carson Benyai, who could potentially be in this race as well. So it's interesting. But yeah, Nolan, I think, showed a lot of promise late in the year last year. And then in the WBC where, if he's healthy, I think he's going to put up some really good numbers. And with the Mets, get some run support, win a lot of games. So I like him to be, my pick for NLROY.
And what's funny? We heard about it in the offseason too, Ticket. Like you heard about it at winter meetings, regular offseason. What the Mets were looking for was a starter, right? They're looking for starting pitching. They fell short with Valdez. They fell short with Burns. They fell short in a lot of different areas. Trading for guys, they couldn't buy anybody to go to the Mets, right? And that's why McClain's going to have to step up and be the John McClain of the New York Mets. And yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. I got so let's talk about the AL Manager of the Year. We don't really have to waste too much time because we kind of walked through the different teams, but just for purposes with the manager side of things, I do have Mariners manager Dan Wilson. If the Mariners are more than capable of being the face of the AL this year with the rotation with J-Rod and Cal Raleigh, give me Dan Wilson as AL Manager of the Year.
I'm going to go with Craig Albernaz with the Orioles. I think the Orioles will sneak into the playoffs as a wild card team. And Albernaz first year skip with the O's. They spent some money in the offseason, obviously, the big one being Pete Alonso. They didn't catch themselves a fish. They got themselves a goddamn polar bear shark. Yeah. But Albernaz, also local kid, Fall River, Mass. Grew up there, spent some time with the Rays in their system, coming up as a catcher. And I always do kind of like catchers for managers because they see the game for both lenses. Yep. So I'm going to go with Albernaz as my kind of off-the-board pick to win AL Manager of the Year.
Yeah, my dog Benny actually likes that pick too, as you can hear the barking in the background. So he is all in favor for the
Benny knows ball.
Yeah, he knows ball. Benny knows ball. All right, so NL Manager of the Year, I got the Braves manager, Walt Weiss. We talked about the Braves and how I think they're going to win the NL Central. NL East. I feel like the Braves are more than capable of doing it, and I think Walt Weiss is going to have to do a pretty good job of managing the pitching side of it. So if everybody stays healthy, if everybody can find a way to bring it, I do see Weiss winning a NL Manager of the Year.
I'm going to go with Craig Counsell with the Cubs. I talked about them winning the Central, and he's a guy who's received a lot of votes for Manager of the Year, has never won it. In fact, he's received votes in, I believe, 4 of the last 5 races, and has been in the conversation, but has never broken through and won it, and I think this year he finally will.
I love that. Love it. Counsell, actually, it's a funny thing real quick before we get into Sweet 16. Counsell was the manager when he won Manager of the Year for the Brewers, correct? Because I think he was from Milwaukee. So him going from Milwaukee to Chicago after winning Manager of the Year, now going to the Cubs. I know there's been some time since he's been away, but him winning Manager of the Year for the Cubs probably won't, have a good taste in their mouth as well with the Brewers. So
imagine it will.
No, it won't. It will be a bad taste of beer in their mouth.